Welcome.
The thing has changed. There's live in the top right.
Yes, welcome to our NaNoWriMo vlog watch week one thing where we talk about the things that we wrote in a book, maybe.
I wrote nothing.
Don't, don't be shy, Daniel. You wrote a good 1,000 words.
1,050.
Yeah, nicely done, nicely done.
Yeah, I'm behind. My excuse is that I started again day 2. Day 3, I had like prior engagements with like family friends, and today is the 4th day. So technically, well, assuming that I would have already written today, I'm like 3,000 words behind. Technically, because I haven't started yet, and it is still day 4, I'm only 2,000 words behind, assuming I meet target today, which I'm going to try and go over. Or not.
Well, today is day 5.
What? When did that happen?
It's Thursday the 5th.
Okay.
I assume we're both looking at a 500 words a day target or more.
I want to try and still keep it 1,000 a day, but yeah, I'm still. But if we were doing 500 a day, then I'm only like 1,500 behind.
Well, we haven't had day 4 over. I mean, neither of us have started writing for today yet. So really it's sort of a 2,000. Admittedly, we both initially were like, yeah, we'll do a much higher word count. No.
I just kind of found it quite hard to start, because I think I've got kind of an idea of like where I want things to go, where I want like the main bulk of the story to start, and it's just kind of establishing the characters and putting them in that situation where the story can start going feels quite awkward.
Mm-hmm.
So like I want like my main character, the young princess, to be kind of maybe alone in the wilderness, and then she's going to, I don't know, come across, I haven't properly decided, like a talking wolf or like fey creatures or just the animals, and then they're going to have to go to here, they're going to have to go to there, they're going to have to find everything out. So it's just getting the princess from the castle, which has been besieged by dark wizards, of course, to a point where her parents are missing. They're kind of like staying in the castle to confront the dark wizards head on. Not sure what's going to happen to them yet. But because, of course, she's not going to run out by herself, she's being escorted by her elder sister and like another member of the guard who is close to them both. They're going to kind of exit the castle. They're going to then kind of be beset by something else, which is going to force them to split, which is then going to have like the young princess on her own, where she can start exploring the world, interacting with the creatures, getting on with like finding a way to defeat or kind of push back or neutralize the dark sorcerers, rescue or revenge her family, or reunite, or whatever. It's like that's kind of when the story's going to start flowing. That's when it's going to start working.
Yeah.
And at the moment, it's just getting to a point there which feels natural. Because I could just kind of like say, it's like, oh, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. But if it's just kind of point A to B, regardless of how it feels or how it's going, it won't feel natural. I won't be happy with it. I'll slow down. I'll try to rewrite. And I say that, but I have already rewritten, and I have already slowed down because I'm stumbling at this first hurdle.
Well,
sorry to interrupt, but yes, that's kind of where I am. That's kind of my experience so far. That's my excuse for being a bit behind. That's kind of how I'm feeling with NaNoWriMo at the moment.
I mean, what I'd suggest is how prevalent are the Fae in the world?
I want them to be like within the story quite prevalent. I want there to be lots. I want them to kind of fill the world because I want her to always kind of be exploring something new, like running into someone new, running into something which is interesting and magical. Because past couple of months, that's kind of what I've been immersing myself in. Cursory glances at that, kind of, but I'm still kind of learning it, and I just kind of want to incorporate that somehow, because I feel, well, kind of like aside from NaNoWriMo, I feel like we're doing like this What the Folk series, and I'm kind of rushing about like the day before, trying to find a story which I can relate, either by reading it, by recounting it, by something. And I don't think it's like very good because it doesn't feel natural, because I still think that like my favorite video that I've made in What the Folk is Gwendol Rican, because that's the one which I've had the most experience with, the one which I've known. I'm just gonna lift up the back of the laptop because I think the fan's going quite, trying to cool it down. That's Gwendol Rican is like the one which I was most familiar with, which I kind of know. So that kind of felt the most natural. It kind of came freely, rather than kind of like how What the Folk's been going. I feel it's kind of forced to an extent. So I was kind of thinking that, you know, once I kind of laid all this groundwork, once I kind of learned all this stuff, once I kind of researched it all, we'll delete all of that, we'll start again, and it'll be awesome.
It never is.
And until then, I kind of want to, I want to do something with all of this knowledge that I'm gathering about kind of Fae and folk, and put it into something which I can actually like put a lot of time into.
Well, there is one thing.
Actually, I'm not sure if I actually answered your question. So I don't want it to be like, I want it to kind of be new. I want it to be something which she was not entirely familiar with, which means that the Fae can't be like fully prevalent. But I do kind of want her to keep meeting like these new things, and these things keep happening. So I'm not kind of sure on like a global aspect how prevalent they're going to be.
One sort of Totoro Fae.
This week alone, I've had 2 people yell at me for films that I haven't seen. One of them has been new, yes, Pan's Labyrinth. I haven't seen that. A friend of mine is like a cosplayer, and is actually getting quite a bit of traction. One of like the cosplays that she does is Celine from the vampire-y thing. Vampires versus werewolves. Lots of latex and leather. Say again?
Underworld.
Yes, that's the one. I didn't recognize the main character from that, and it's like I haven't actually seen it, and it's like, oh god, and now you're forcing me to admit that I haven't actually seen My Neighbor Totoro.
Seriously, dude? Seriously?
I've seen Princess Mononoke. There's a lot of Ghibli that I haven't seen.
But you're the anime guy.
It's expensive.
Torrents.
I know torrents, but I know I could just get torrents, but I can buy like no, I don't have anything down here. But I've bought like seasons. I've bought like a month's worth of anime for less than one singular Ghibli film.
eBay.
eBay
is your friend. Okay, the idea in Totoro is that, well, you're aware of the Shinto idea of kami, right?
Each kind of locale or kind of particular nature kind of aspect is inhabited by a spirit, and that spirit kind of protects.
Everything has a spirit, basically.
Okay.
Some spirits are more powerful than others, but generally everything has a spirit. You know, every rock, every tree has a spirit, and the older the thing, the more powerful the spirit is the typical way of looking at it. In Totoro, they enter a secret world literally by going under a bush to a ancient shrine, and it is through the, you know, passing through the gate that they enter the spirit world. And that's when there's spirits and fae everywhere. And they're all cute and adorable and do little dances.
One thing which I was thinking was, because like with the story aspect, like the original game, I can't remember what, I think, well, it's basically just there's going to be some kind of
unicorn.
It was going to be like something to do with the unicorns, but like, why were the sorcerers attacking? Why were they attacking?
They're douchebags.
Kind of to kidnap the princess. Actually, no, it was to kidnap the princess and then use like the magic of her blood because she's royal, she's innocent, she's pure, blah blah blah, to gain access and kind of siphon the power of unicorn spirit, whatever. But I thought if I'm going to adapt that and make it very kind of fae and spiritual and fairies and stuff, that there is kind of like this mirror universe, very linked to the past, not linked between worlds. Just ignore that game. I keep doing hand motions, but the camera is too high up. Ignore that game. And actually, I think it does. We haven't actually looked at it in What the Fuck, but I think there are kind of like there's the spirit world, which is kind of exactly the same as ours but different. So what if Cain's Vale, like the city that it's all set? That's the name I came up with. You could pretend to look impressed. I'm bad with names.
I disliked the use of the dash, but other than that, it was fine.
There are plenty of cities that have dashes. Really? I might change that.
Not in that way. If it was sort of, basically, we use dashes now to sort of break apart a thing, because normally punctuation is actually a relatively new addition to language. So what would, a good example is like Ross on Y. That's Ross dash on dash Y, right? Don't know if it's actually done that, but there's plenty of examples. But anyway, what that would have been done, say in medieval time on a map, is just Ros on Y, all in one word. But we break it up into its components for pronunciation's sake. To put a dash in a name like that is to contract things. So if, say, your kingdom there was the kingdom of whatever the first bit was and the kingdom of the second bit, and they joined together, that would be the kingdom of whatever dash whatever. But just to have a name that's whatever dash whatever doesn't make sense. Unless it's an apostrophe, then it's your own game.
Okay, I'll just remove the dash then. It was just the kind of pronunciation's sake.
Well, you know, or you could do what I suggest and give it a bit of history. But
I just had them. It's November 5th when we're recording this. Guy Fawkes Night.
Oh yeah, the day we defeated terrorism forever.
Back in, I don't even know what year it was.
1700s.
17.
They wore stockings. I remember that.
So yes,
So
what is this? Like the castle of the city? Pause. You were like.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to remember where I was. Okay.
You were talking about my bad pronunciation.
No. Moving on.
Oh, I was going to say, like, what if, like, the castle in my city was mirrored to a city of, like, the Fae high seat of power, like the Fae king, a Fae queen that lived there, and that's what the sorcerer was really trying to get at.
Once again, I'd have to suggest you watch Pan's Labyrinth, because that does that kind of stuff really well.
Yeah. I don't have time to go and watch films to help me write when I have no time to write.
Okay.
Actually, no, I will, because next week I'm not working. Next week I've got the week off work, so I'll have time to watch films.
So compile a list of films to watch for research.
I was like, I didn't even realize I was ripping this off. I'm going to have to start everything again.
Second bit of advice is writing advice. I don't know how the rules of NaNoWriMo would apply to this, but in general, as a rule for writers, if you don't know how to get to a point, but you have ideas for later on, just skip to later on. You can fill in the blanks later.
As long as I kind of keep to the word count, I think that NaNoWriMo is okay with it.
Exactly. So if you're struggling sort of with getting her out of the castle, I mean, my suggestion would be that's when you introduce the Fae, would be my suggestion there. But if you're struggling with that bit, just move to the next bit that you're comfortable with.
I don't know, because then I don't want to be left with kind of like square peg, round hole situation. It's like, I've got like this part of the story and this part of the story, and they just kind of.
Well, you do need a going through the gateway moment. For those of our non-existent audience, going through the gateway refers to the Joseph Campbell monomyth idea that in the hero's journey you go through a gateway to enter the other world of the heroic, away from the mundane. Okay.
Okay. Well, do you have any questions? Is there anything else you want me to talk about, or?
Let's see. You're still sort of very in a malleable state with your story. So
I am. Yes.
I want to ask you, like, well, what are the villains up to? No, you don't have villains yet. You just have nebulous.
They're casting their magics. And now I'm just trying to think of. I can't even remember the song. I think it's like Rainbow, Stargazer.
Don't know it.
Casting his magic.
Don't know it.
See how he flies so high. He doesn't know the reason why, yet he flies. Something like that.
The only thing I can think of is Pinball Wizard.
Sounds like a statue becomes part of the machine. She'll play some mean pinball.
Yeah. Greatest album about a pedophile.
I never actually saw the film. I was just shown the music videos, kind of music video parts of it.
Wait, or am I thinking of a different song?
I think Pinball Wizard was about a guy who was really good at pinball.
Yeah, no, that was the one about the autistic guy. No, there's a very, very famous rock song about a pedophile. And I think it's by The Who. It's irritating me, I should know it. Anyway.
Teenage Wasteland? Teenagers can be underage. I don't know. I haven't listened to The Who in a while. But I do listen to them. Barbara O'Reilly is probably my favorite song.
Yeah, it's something about sitting on a park bench. Sitting on a park bench.
Isn't that Sabbath?
No, that's not Sabbath.
No, it was Sabbath.
Yeah. Well, I have most of their stuff on vinyl. Right.
I do know the song though. Yeah.
Yeah, it is ringing a bell. It's like, not a useful bell, just one of those annoying bells. Right. So, have you come up with sort of the end game, or what's your overall arc?
That's kind of like another thing that I'm having a bit of a problem with, because I haven't kind of said at all like how old like the young princess is, but I think like in the way that it's been written so far, she's coming across as younger than I intended. So I want her to just be kind of, well, I guess just kind of like the hero's journey type passage where she's not used to this kind of stuff. I don't want to say weak.
Enters womanhood through adversity.
Kind of, but I don't want to.
You want it to sound less rapey.
Oh God, I didn't even think of that context. Damn it, Keir.
Exactly, that's something that happens in a lot of fantasy novels with female protagonists.
The only one I can really think of is Red Sonja.
It's just something I know has been spoken upon. It's just something that that's been spoken upon by female fantasy writers, that female fantasy characters tend to be punished sexually. It's weird, and I don't like it.
And I was just like thinking, because I don't particularly fancy just kind of. Well, I don't want like things to be sexualized.
Unless between the older sister and the guard.
I'm not sure yet, but
it's always worth having a love interest.
But I don't want to have like an all-female cast to an extent, or like.
Oh, the guard's female.
Say it.
The guard's female.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, oh yes, look at how progressive I'm being with all of these female characters. By the way, lesbians.
And now they kissed.
Yeah, I think that might go down poorly if anyone ever read it.
Yeah.
Um, what was I saying? We were talking about the Who. We were talking about lesbians. Oh yes, because I have read a few novels that do kind of go into it, and I think they do it really well. And I think that I'm not sure if I would say that the book kind of benefits from it. I don't want to kind of say that it would detract from it if it wasn't there, but it's just kind of it's there and it fits and it kind of makes sense for it to be there. And I don't want to kind of ignore it and then kind of maybe be accused of, well, not be accused or just not feel like I'm ignoring it because, well, I don't know. It's a thing that happens that would happen that by all are you still here? I think
Yeah.
it looks like you're kind of frozen.
No, I'm still here.
Um,
Well, I was thinking for the older sister in the guard mainly, but
yeah.
you can you don't have to have a interest with a younger character.
No, I mean not so much as love interest, but like you were saying, the um, progression into womanhood.
Hmm.
So, well, I don't know, because I know that it can kind of hit at very kind of different age range, but
And also, womanhood isn't just puberty. It's maturity in a mental state.
yes, but I know that there is kind of the mindset that I don't know, like a male author or just men will avoid the subject of women's puberty because it makes them feel awkward. And I'm trying to say that I'm not going to try to avoid it because it's all awkward. I want to avoid it because that's not kind of the story that I want to be telling. But I don't want to be seen as just overlooking something which would be a very important part of anyone's life,
Hmm.
um, male or female. And it's kind of if it was a male character, then I wouldn't want to kind of spend time on it as well. And
Basically,
I
you
don't
don't want
want
to pull
to. What I was going to say was just because I'm not talking about it, I don't want people to be saying that um, it doesn't exist.
Hmm.
And then, because I remember the analogy that I was thinking up while I was kind of going over all this in my mind was um, no one in Lord of the Rings poops.
Very true.
Everyone poops. And no one accuses J.R.R. Tolkien of kind of um, purporting the propagating the idea that elves don't poop or dwarves
D-
don't poop. I mean, everyone knows that that's what's going on, but it's just not talked about.
I don't know. Does Gandalf poop?
Well, he is because he eats, so he must poop.
Well, he is an angel as well, though, so he might have a completely efficient body.
He will need roughage though, and the idea of roughage is that it's not digested and absorbed. It kind
Completely efficient. That's how he's able to smoke so much.
of possibly.
I
Um,
mean, there's no awkward scenes where, Frodo stumbles in on
and then they return to the real world, and suddenly 10 decades have passed, and nothing is the same. That's what happens. That's what happens when you go dancing with the Fae.
Or you can do the reverse, and she goes into a pheromone and comes out 10 years older.
Is there precedent for that?
Yeah.
Because I always assumed that I think it's generally time. Time in the Fae realm. Well,
it goes all manner of ways.
It goes all manner of ways. It's wibbly wobbly.
It's timey-wimey. You know, those stories of people going into the forest and coming out as old men an hour later.
Mm.
So that's a particularly a Welsh thing for woodcutters, cutting down the wrong trees, and they go in as young men
coming back with big bushy beards.
Long, straggly ones, so they're all bent and old.
Mm.
I never got any.
This light that I've got is either blinding me or it's just not actually doing anything to make this picture look any better.
Mm.
There we go. That's too much. There we go.
We can see your beautiful face. So yeah.
That just reminds me of going back to Steven Universe, where Pearl is like, sometimes you even look like Rose, and then Steven is just like, really? And his face is
all that Pearl face when she takes Steven to the Rose's secret bunker.
So, what do you think?
Right.
And also, like, I think I did have the idea of like her coming back being older because of did you play Child of Light?
I have played it. I haven't finished it.
Same, because of I think I've kind of I've maybe even explained on the channel before. I had connection issues and then data wiped, and I thought, spent so much time. I don't want to do it all again.
I've been on the Wii, and I just can't be asked to play it on the Wii.
There are parts of that where you just, or at least there's one part where you just kind of age and you're older.
Bing.
Just bing, because you're magic.
Mm-hmm.
You're in like an Elseworld full of magic. You're a young princess in a world full of magic, and you're exploring it all for the first time. And there's all of these weird things.
Because that's not a metaphor for anything.
I'm going to agree with you, even though you weren't being serious, because there are far too many things that it could be. It could be a metaphor for anything.
Red Bull.
And by saying it?
Red Bull.
Red Bull gives you wings.
You do get flight fairly early on.
Mm.
Actually, I really liked that as a mechanic.
It was fun. And I say it could be a metaphor for anything. It could be a metaphor for like 5 things.
Mm. Well, and to be fair, to quote Yahtzee, the rhyming was awful in that game.
I enjoyed it.
It wasn't very good. The meters rarely flowed.
Mm. Especially like the jester who was...
Oh, yeah, didn't you say there was a jester in your story?
Oh, no. Okay, so my first draft, I kind of started just kind of explaining the kingdom, just kind of like saying that it was all lovely and everyone was happy and it was basically communism, but actually working, which...
Communism under a monarch.
Communism under a monarch. Yeah, because apparently, well, you can have fascism under an elected official, and you can have democracy. No, you can have democracy. You can have democracy under a... I don't know what I was saying.
Under a tyrant?
Communism is always under a totalitarian leader.
No, it's not.
Generally is.
Yeah, in the real world, but in the...
Oh, yeah, I thought that's what we were talking about.
In the actual way communism is supposed to work, there's meant to be no leaders.
Hmm. Well, I just mean the communism where no one's getting exploited and everyone's happy.
I thought we were talking about the real world here.
Well, no, Damn it. Okay, so, and then I scrapped that. Well, I was riding through that, and then I was like saying, because I was like saying that in the villages, like everyone kind of works hard and they're all kind of working the field, they're all kind of tending to animals, and then they have the banter. It's like the
Oh, I look at my turnip. It looks like a cock.
No, it's like the crop farmers, because like the weather is always perfect. Basically, the crop farmers don't really need to do anything. They just plant the crops and then they let it happen and then they harvest. That's all they do. It's simple. And then like the animal farmers they just get animals and then boom, they can graze in the pastures because everything's lovely. And it's like they don't need to do anything. So everyone's like, "You've got a bloody easy job." It's like, no, you've got a bloody easy job. And they only rip each other because they know that none of the jobs are easy. That everyone kind of it was bloody communist. Now that, which is even worse now that I think about it. And I was just kind of like explaining that it was like a very small kingdom and everyone was happy. And then I was kind of talking about the city, and I said that was basically just the same kind of ethic of like the small villages and like the farmers, that everyone kind of did their job, everyone was happy, everyone was kind of really nice. And I thought there's going to be no conflict here. Another reason why I scrapped it. And in like the actual writing, when I was writing it, I was like saying that everyone like has their job. Everyone kind of appreciates that people are all kind of working together. Which, because I was going to be like, if it's like a very underpopulated city, then everyone is going to have to do like necessary jobs.
So there'd be no one like me.
There might be, but you would be one of the wizards.
I would be one of the evil people. Yes.
No, there were going to be wizards and mages. Wizards would just basically trawl over old texts, kind of researching forgotten lore, and mages would be kind of the scientists who develop new magics, new kind of things, and they would often kind of work together. But there was kind of like an important distinction, I thought, where I guess kind of like wizards, sorcerers, but I didn't want them to be kind of like wild magic. I wanted them both to be kind of your archetypal wizard, but having two very distinct
sources.
Not sources, kind of perspectives, like things that they kind of worked on.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you put someone in there who was, oh my god, books, I need more books.
That's actually been cut now.
Oh. I lost my job in your fantasy kingdom.
Might get back to it. But basically, just as a joke, when I was kind of sending it to you and Connor, after I kind of written like everyone kind of loves everyone kind of gets on, everyone works hard, everyone. Oh, you got it.
Yes.
Hello.
Okay.
You'll have to leave soon. I think we've just talked about me so far.
Yes, in about half an hour.
We've been talking for half an hour.
Have we?
You're leaving in half an hour. Okay.
Yes, leaving in half an hour. Sorry. I'll get up on this Mac. Yeah.
I was like sending stuff to kind of. Oh, are you doing things?
No.
I was sending stuff to you and Connor, and basically after I'd kind of written, everyone gets along. Everyone kind of appreciates just how hard everyone works. I was going to end it there, but then when I sent it to you and Connor, I thought I'd add a joke and just say, except for the jesters, everyone hates those fuckers.
Okay. So it was basically a mime joke.
Yeah, everyone hates mimes.
Okay, fair enough. Well, to be fair, I only skimmed those things you sent.
I thought that was a bloody good joke.
I remembered it, so it must have been fairly good.
But also, I guess, kind of the juxtaposition of like saying effing jesters when everything had been so kind of childish and naive.
Yeah, it did come across as fairly fairy tale.
It's kind of what I want, but I also kind of don't want it to be kind of that.
You need to strike a balance.
Yeah, I want it to be kind of young adult to adult, whereas it was coming across as very much children's.
I mean, you know, I've read my share of children's fantasy novels over the years. Hell,
I did actually enjoy writing that. I think I would enjoy to write like a children's novel, but that's not kind of what I want to go for with this NaNoWriMo.
Well, remember, The Hobbit was aimed at children. And I still think it's Tolkien's best work.
Aimed at older.
Yeah, and it's too fucking long. Too long. Okay,
So let's talk about you.
yes, talk about my favorite topic, me. I'm probably a bit more experienced with long-term writing things than you are.
Probably. I would say
Given,
definitely.
given it's the
Are
closest to
you not, is it not your job? Are you not a
technically,
writer?
I'm semi-pro, I believe is the term.
Semi-pro. I probably haven't written anything since I studied English in college, which half a decade ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're more experienced than I am.
Hmm. Well, I thought I'd be modest. So, as I talked about in the vlogs before, I was initially doing a political thriller, and I tried writing that on the first day. Probably actually made what was going to be my initial word count of 1,500 um, in redrafts of the first paragraph
Hmm.
because I just kept trying to do it and it wasn't there. I just couldn't get it right. So I decided, fuck it, and took up my backup idea, which is the space thing in the space.
Thanks.
Yeah. So if we had Connor, he'd have to do horror, so we had the full genre.
Hmm. Full sci-fi fantasy genre.
Yeah, fantasy, sci-fi, and horror. Because horror always gets forgotten. Anyway, um, actually, I've just been making it up as I go along, as I always do. Because with this, as with most things, I tend to do world building first, plot third. Number two is procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
So the plot thus far is a object has come into the solar system. People have been alerted, but not properly because of reasons of the past. And people don't know what's happening, but there's sort of all these things going, there's a problem, there's a problem. And they're like, why is that light flashing? Just figure out what that light is, basically. Um,
Is it flashing or blinking?
both. Uh, the literal, what actually happened, because I know you haven't read my latest thing, is basically this AI has alerted the commander of this space station that there's a problem using protocol Spielberg. That's supposed to be something he'd know, but he doesn't, because it's actually thousands of years on from when there was the last proper captain of the station. He's now actually a hereditary baron and knows fuck all. So basically, they're like, what the fuck is Spielberg? And someone had the bright idea, well, there's an ancient thing over there that might know what it is. Let's go get that. And that's
Is it
chapter
a
one.
book?
Hmm?
Is it a book? Can
It's
anyone read?
actually one of the things I've done is basically the thing that happened in the past was everyone lost their account information.
Okay.
The idea is that human civilization got to the point where AIs were running most things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the AIs were like, no, we don't like humans, you're all blocked. Except for certain people who are super users who couldn't have their accounts blocked. So basically, the majority of humanity has been banned from the internet. So everyone started using books again.
Okay.
So there's this. So the first scene after the first chapter takes place in this library in this spaceship, filled with literal books. And people and librarians will like delve into these databases, but they're deadly because the AIs will throw them out and kill them, brain fry them.
Hmm.
I thought it was a cool idea. Sort of society's become a medieval empire.
When we said permaban, we meant permaban.
Exactly. Like humans have got spaceships, but they're running really badly, and they're basically just on safe orbits.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go from like this space station's at Pluto, and you can go to Terra. Take you a year or two, and that's just. But they can't really control the ships. Um, That was the first chapter. The second chapter is actually about a different character completely. I'm taking the Game of Thrones route of changing perspectives quite a bit. And this is a character who's going to stumble upon the cache of information. And basically, I need to decide next what I want to happen. Because, well, next the chapter I'm going to start tonight, I'm going to introduce some villains. But after that, basically, I'll spoil what's going to happen in the story. The idea is there's a ship buried in Eris, which is a dwarf planet far out beyond Pluto. Originally, it was named Xena.
Right, because it was Planet X.
Yeah, they were like Xena, and then they named its moon Gabrielle.
Because nerds.
But now it's Eris and Dynamos, and Dynamos is the god of lawlessness, called Lucy Lawless.
Carry on. Okay.
Yeah.
Carry on.
It's a joke I like. I like nerd jokes like that. It's like Uranus being named George. I like that. So there's a ship buried in Eris, and in it is an AI who has a database that may have login details. And they'll be able to find out, hopefully, what the Spielberg thing is. So what I'm currently planning for the next segment of the plot is the woman on Eris will stumble into this and take a vital key. I'm thinking it'll be a person, because I'm doing some stuff with clones as well. And they'll travel in system, and then it'll kind of be a hunt for these two. There'll be a third party who will be from the House of the Two Sisters, which is Jupiter and Uranus, because the solar system's divided into various duchies. So this is the Duchy of the Two Sisters, which is basically two houses that form a partnership where the two eldest of each house become siblings, literally sharing DNA. Okay. Yeah, it's sort of, I want to, with the houses, I want to sort of create this really formalistic, ritualized society that's kind of based on stuff they don't really understand. Like, people have ceremonial ship suits in the Duchy of After Dark, which is what Pluto is. So, like, they're like boiler suits, but they're basically boiler suits with medals on them. But they're ceremonial garments and considered revered things. Like, if you wear one, it's like, wow, it's a boiler suit, he must be a high-ranking engineer. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I haven't really had any problems other than that initial start, to be honest. It's kind of boring. I just don't know where I'm going to go. So I have these machinations of these two sisters, and I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to be evil.
What we should do is maybe do a National Novel Writing Month for December as well. To get it right.
Yeah.
Maybe January.
December through January is National Editing Month.
Okay. So February. Only 28 days, so we only have to do 28,000 words.
Well, that's when you do your second draft. I don't know, I'm fairly scattershot, but I've got a lot of good ideas I like in this. Like, there are these weird colonies on Eris, like an all-female mining colony, and where the men are whores.
It's all female, apart from the men.
Well, yeah, you know how in mining towns it's predominantly women, predominantly men, apart from like 5 whores, one of whom isn't actually a woman. It's the other way around. Yeah.
They have boy whores too.
Yeah.
Ain't that thoughtful?
I was also going to do, because I was doing some research on Eris, and there's, on Pluto it's got those red marks, like it's got like red trails and such on the surface.
On Pluto?
Yeah. Pluto and Eris are very similar. They both have methane ice. Now, those red lines are called tholines, which is
Is there a moon that's quite a bit closer to Earth that has similar things?
quite possibly. Basically, it's usually like creating some kind of organic nitrate in the methane ice, and that's sort of what they use to farm and such. And I was going to do a whole thing about that, but then I was like, I'm not doing a mining novel here. This is not a book about some up and coming mining town on Eris.
And then the Jedi went to council and talked about trading discipline and mining disputes.
Pretty much. And I was like, no, delete, 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 delete. But I still made my 2,000 words. So. I don't know. I just have so many ideas for this. It's like, the race through the solar system is going to be pretty fun.
It will be.
Also, math is hard.
Math is hard, especially with space.
Yeah. I'm so glad Wolfram Alpha exists. Because I tried to figure out how far it was from Pluto to the heliosphere. And because the heliosphere is something like 100 AU out. Or is it 200?
What? How do you mean the heliosphere? Is that where, like, the solar wind from the sun ends?
Pretty much. It sort of creates kind of a bubble to keep us from the intersolar mass.
Generally, with most things, I learn enough so that I know that I don't know anything.
That is the start of true wisdom. Basically, the heliosphere is this bubble of ionized plasma that it's not a proper bubble because it's not round. It's kind of an off-center ovoid, if that makes sense. Basically, at its furthest point, it's. I think
it's just like solar wind, isn't it?
It's solar wind.
Was it Voyager, like recently, in
yes,
like the past 1 or 2 years, just kind of recently breached that?
No, it breached the heliopause because there's kind of layers. There's the point where the solar wind stops, and then there's a calm. But then there's this basically silt layer of ionized plasma from the sun. That's the heliosphere. And Voyager's gone through the heliopause. So there's wind, calm, silt. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
So anyway, I had to then figure out where the heliosphere was in relation to Pluto, where Pluto was. So its average is 39 AU out. How far the heliosphere would be from that point, distance, then convert that into miles. And it was many, many miles.
Yeah. How many miles is 1 AU, astronomical unit?
Very, very fucking big.
Yes, 1 AU is distance, average distance from Earth to Sun.
I think it's 150 million kilometers. It was a surprisingly round number.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then I tried to figure out how many square miles Eris was. And then I realized I don't know enough math to figure that one out. Because they were using a symbol I didn't understand. It confused and angered me. There was a plus sign with a thing on the bottom.
Oh, you mean like a plus sign and then a negative sign?
Plus sign, then a dash underneath it.
Yeah. Did it have like an extra number after that?
Yeah. It was 107, whatever the fuck this symbol is, like 49 in brackets times 10 to the power of 63 squared.
I think I think say that again.
107 fucking weird symbol 69 in brackets
100
times.
Because I assumed that was like plus or minus. So it's like it's this plus or minus. That's like our region of error.
Oh, okay.
But if it's like 100, and then like the region of error is 70, that's a massive region of error, which makes me doubt my.
I mean, look, I haven't done maths since secondary school, which is fast approaching a decade away. So I'm confused. So yeah, science fiction writer doesn't know math.
If you're misremembering and it's like 107 plus minus 6.9, then I would kind of say I'm quite sure that that is like our region of error.
Okay.
It's like plus
It's
or
on
minus
the
this much.
It's on the Wikipedia page anyway.
Yeah. If it is still quite large, I don't know.
I don't know. It's a dwarf planet, but it's sort of how big do you make a planet?
I can't remember. Ask Neil deGrasse Tyson, that bastard who relegated Pluto.
I have no problems with that decision.
Me neither, but you know, it's fun to.
Well, you know,
there is.
If they'd kept Pluto as a planet, they would have had to have made Eris a planet. And then they would have had to make other ones a planet. There's like 8 dwarf planets recognized at the minute. With actual.
Well, there's more.
I think there's sort of these are the ones that have been recognized and named, and there's a bunch more that are still.
Because aren't even like meteorites in the Kuiper belt? Is it pronounced Kuiper belt?
Yeah.
That are larger than Pluto.
Yeah, quite a lot. Well, I don't really have much more to say about my story other than, you know, I don't know where I'm going with it, but I'm enjoying the ride. So hopefully I'll have figured out what the evil machinations are by next week.
And I'm just, what I'm hoping is that like next week while I'm not at work, I'm going to just be able to go down and actually do like a decent amount of writing.
Pull ahead of me. Put me to shame, Daniel. Put me to shame.
Maybe. One can only hope. And I think we might be coming up to the end of our runtime, half-hour deadline.
I think we have.
I think we wanted to do this just as like a vlog rather than a podcast. That's why we're on Hangouts. I think we probably got beyond podcast timing. We've been talking for a while.
I don't know.
I think we've been talking for a while.
Well, it was an experiment.
It was an experiment. We'll see how long we actually talk for, because I can't see like any counter on this.
I don't have one either. And of course, we have no control, so it's not a really good experiment.
But we'll see how it turns out. We'll get Connor to tell us how we did.
Is Connor technically our control? Well, anyway, this is an early vlog, or whatever. So, but let's call it a night here.
Are you uploading this now?
Yeah. Go straight up.
Like, set it to upload like on Monday.
No, goes straight up.
No, well, I thought it said that you could kind of like set it to upload at a later date, but I don't know. We'll experiment further.
Yeah, we need a control though. It's not a real experiment unless you have a control. That's what secondary school science taught me.
Never mind. We can just say goodbye and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah. So Dan needs to go watch movies. I need to learn math.
I think more kind of present. I'm hungry. I need to get food.
Okay, food good.
That's what I'm going to do right now, rather than watch films, get food, and then write.
Good night.
It's already late. Good night. Good night. We'll go. We'll do things.